Hi, everyone. The York Public Library is so excited to welcome you all to this evening's reading by our local poet, Tom Carnicelli. Tom was an academic for many years at UNH, but it wasn't until after retiring that he returned to poetry and began writing for all of us to enjoy. His first book of poetry, Old Guy Part 1, came out in 2015, followed a couple years after by Older Guy. And then in this December, the book Older Still, which is the reason we're all here today, to hear some of his new work and enjoy each other's company. We're very excited to have him, and as the town of York is very excited to have him. In fact, they named him a Citizen of Lifetime Achievement Award in the town of York just last year, and we're very grateful to have him here tonight via Zoom to present some of his work. So Tom, I will turn it over to you.
Okay, can you hear me? Is it on?
Yes.
I hear you.
Okay, good. Thank you.
We can't hear you now.
Oh,
Yeah,
looks like you hit
something
mute, Tom. Tom, you're muted.
If I can avoid it.
there you go.
I'm
All right.
sorry, I did that. That
Good
was
now.
Oh, okay, I think we're fine. All right.
Okay.
All right, after my first book, I wrote at the end of it that I wasn't going to write anymore, but then I broke that promise. What did I say at the end of the first one? I said, well, whatever. I didn't want to write an Old Guy Part 2, so I wrote Older Guy, which technically did not break my promise, you see. And now I've done this one, which is Older Still, and I was thinking of naming it 7 years later because I've been retired for 7 years now, but Older Still seemed to work. I was all set to turn this in, and then the pandemic struck, and I thought, really, I found I had quite a bit to say about the pandemic, so I thought I would add some poems about it, but kind of weave them in with the other, because my main theme is still the changing perspectives as you get older and you get further into retirement. So I'll start with some Corona poems, and then I'll move into other ones. This first one is called Social Distancing. I don't do social distancing well. When I meet somebody I know, I tend to move closer to them as we talk. It's not something I notice, but my wife does. After the conversation is over, she scolds me. She tells me I was much closer than 6 feet, while I thought I'd maintained a perfectly safe distance. If this continues, and I think it will, I'd be perfectly willing to wear a leash. Then she could hold me back, and I could strain forward, yapping. Okay. This one is called Spousal Distancing. They haven't tried that in this state. I don't know if they've tried it in any state. I should think not. What if the governor mandated spousal distancing? How would we comply? Well, it would be okay with sleeping. One of us could stay in our double bed. The other could sleep on the couch downstairs. Eating separately would be easy enough. One could eat at the table, the other at the kitchen counter. Riding in the car would be difficult. There are less than 6 feet between the driver's seat and the back seat on the right. I looked that up. So the passenger would have to lie on the floor behind the back seat. Not so good, but we only take short trips now. The biggest problem would be the lack of touching, kissing, hugging, that sort of thing. I guess we could blow kisses from across the room. But we would never agree to do these things. We want to keep doing everything together, just as we do now. We'd defy the order. We'd rebel. We'd turn on Les Mis at top volume and march. But no governor would ever give such an order. When people are stuck inside with not enough to do, these are the kinds of things they dream up. Okay. I hope you're laughing.
Yes, I am. Inward.
Oh dear.
I can clap.
Thank you. All right. Here's one from my golf buddies. It's called Bad Lie. We're walking on the cart paths in the golf course, one of the few places that haven't been closed to the public, probably because it's private land. To discourage people from congregating, the selectmen have closed most of the places where we've been walking, the beaches, the parks, even the path around the harbor. I've got to admit that this golf course really is a beautiful place. This hole has fine, stately trees, which I've never noticed before. It's hard to admire them when your drive lands somewhere in the middle of them. Well, it's still great to be out here, we golfers say, as we get a second ball out of the bag. Sure it is. Okay. That's hole number 11, by the way. Very nice trees, if you don't drive into them. Okay. This one is called Friends. This was early on when they closed all the restaurants, including Rick's, which is where we go to breakfast every morning. The three amigos, Stanley and Steve and me. All right. We three old guys used to have long breakfasts at Rick's, at least 3 mornings a week. Now, like all the restaurants, Rick's is closed. We've tried as couples to have cocktail parties online. It's great to see them, but 6 people talking on a screen, and often at once, can only get so far. Out walking, we ran into Brian, just back from Florida. He and I had some catching up to do. And we talked so long that my wife began walking away. I don't need friends just as long as I have my wife. That's in quotes. That's what I used to say. And yes, she is the person I need the most. But no, I do need friends.
Very good.
Amazing how social we really are, even rather reticent people. You really need your friends. All right, here's another Rick's poem. Someday I'm going to have a whole book of Rick's poems. I've got probably 10 of them by now. Rick's is a restaurant that is kind of down in a hollow right next to a Cumberland Farms parking lot.
Yep.
And there is no vegetation around Rick's at all. All you see is the Cumberland Farms parking lot. This is called al fresco, dining outside. When you eat at Rick's, you look out at the parking lot. During the pandemic, you sit right in the parking lot. Veronica has set up a few plastic tables on the asphalt and roped the area off with a bright yellow chain to keep the traffic away. It's a small parking lot, but always very busy with cars and trucks. There'll be 3 or 4 at the gas pumps on the left and 5 or 6 parked at the convenience store on the right. With all the comings and goings, it takes some determination to sit here and eat breakfast, but we still do it 3 days a week. The change of venue doesn't bother us at all. We do get annoyed, though, when the 18-wheeler that delivers the soft drinks parks in front of our table. It totally blocks the view.
What view?
The view of the trucks and all that.
Uh,
Okay. This was done in early March or April. And the first line, which is our state has few fatalities, may seem no longer applicable. Although I will tell you that from March until now, the state of Maine has had 276 fatalities, which in the long run and compared to the rest of the country is not a hell of a lot, but you know, it's more than we'd like to have, and we're now getting 500 cases a day, spiking a little bit, and it's disturbing. But in any case, what's kind of weird is that they used to give the ages of the people who died, and they were kind of disturbing, as you'll see. All right, it's called the Daily News. Our state has few fatalities, but the daily list usually includes, quote, a man in his 80s and, quote, a woman in her 70s. That's us. Those descriptions are exactly who we are. This isn't rare. It happens often, maybe 3 days a week. We have a hard time responding. I might say something like, there we are again, but that sounds more jaunty than I feel. Actually, I don't feel much of anything. They said it would strike older people more, and that's what it's doing. The experts got it right. My wife, though, takes our weird inclusion in the daily count more personally. She sees it as a kind of threat. Today's report had a twist. A man in his 70s and a woman in her 80s. That might describe some other couple, hundreds probably, but not us. We appreciate the day off. Well, thank you. Thanks, Brian. Okay, this one is called, this is a section, I'm now moving away from COVID and going into the other stuff. This one is called Adults and Children. This one is called Parenthood. Parenthood, they say, is a job that never ends. And they're right, up to a point. But the point does come. When all the drama and the trauma, the schools, the weddings, the divorces, the births, the jobs, the houses are over, and your children seem relatively settled, a lull sets in. You feel free to travel, to stay away as long as you like, to spend as much money as you like. You leave them your itinerary with dates and places and numbers, but you know your children won't use it. They won't even think about you while you're gone. And you, for a while, won't think about them. Ha! I hope no one is offended by that, but it is true. Here's a poem about one of my favorite students whom I've remained in contact with for all these years, and it's just a wonderful thing. It's called Catching Up. You'll never catch up to me, I joked to my former student. I was talking about years. She was 19 years old when we first met, and I was 46. That's a huge gap. We've kept in contact for over 35 years now. I've been to her wedding and to her daughters, to her college graduation and to her daughters. I've watched her guide her 2 children into adulthood and watched her establish a strong marriage and a long, successful career. Those are the same things I myself have done. Now that I'm retired and more or less standing still, how exactly are the 2 of us so different? Maybe my joke was all wrong. What more would she have to do to catch up to me? Maybe she already has. I think she has, tell you the truth. All right, here's a little poem about a little girl. It's called This Year. 3 years ago, we were not sorry to see this little girl taken up to bed. Putting it mildly. This year, we can't get enough of her. She's so lively, so funny, so smart. She seems far more interesting than any conversation we adults might start. Why the big difference? She's gotten older. Could we have gotten wiser? Okay. Okay, I'll move into retired life. This was pretty much for Steve, as he will recognize. It's called Two Ways, but these ways are quite relevant. Retired guys go 2 ways. Some have something they have to do every day of the week. They volunteer, they mentor, they run for local office, serve on committees and boards. These guys have appointments and meetings all week long. Their lives are mapped out on their cell phones. Other retired guys avoid commitments like the plague. They don't have a schedule. They have plenty of things to do, but no set times to do them, except of course for trash day. If somebody needs their help, they'll volunteer, but they'd rather help for 5 straight days than every Tuesday morning. Neither way is better or worse, more selfish or more virtuous. These are free choices people make. If the first guy feels too busy, and he will, and the second guy feels at loose ends, and he will, it's nobody's fault but their own. I focused this on guys because women do so much better than guys in retirement, at least as far as I can see. And guys are always floundering, at least my wife she always knows what she's going to do and she always does it, and she's never hanging around at loose ends. So, but guys are a bigger problem, it seems to me. All right. Oh, this is a heavy one, but this is important. I want everybody to listen. This is the poem in which I figure out how to get over my retirement guilt. A retirement guilt comes from feeling you're not doing a damn thing of any use to anybody, that you've lost your purpose, that you're just kind of floundering around in a useless manner. But retirement is better than that. But it takes a long time to figure out exactly how or why. And I think I've made a start on that direction. This is called 7 years later, 7 years after I retired. We just returned from a cruise, 2 weeks along the coast of Norway, in the middle of January, no less. And our children had come up to hear about it. It was a great trip. We showed them our pictures and told our stories. They were happy for us. Then we asked about their lives. Our 2 children and their spouses are all in their 50s, their prime years. They seem so busy. They like their work and believe strongly in its importance. But working seems to be almost all they do. As we talked, the contrast between our lives was striking. They talked of the daily pressures and challenges they deal with. We talked of our latest adventures. They were the working people. We were the gay retirees. Our life seemed almost frivolous in comparison to theirs. Working, of course, is more important. The whole world depends upon it. But what we do in retirement has value too. It's much more than fun and games. On our cruise, we enjoyed the restaurants, the musical shows, the afternoon high tea. We also stood in the dark for 3 hours to watch the northern lights. We lived in the polar night. We touched the markings on a reindeer's ear. When I was working, I used to leave home just before sunrise. We live right by the ocean, and the sky at that moment is amazing. Bright orange rising from the horizon, banks of purple clouds. I always wished I could sit for a while and look at it. Now that I'm retired, I do. Now, the book has this picture of the sun rising, and on the back of the book is the last stanza from that poem, and I think you'll see why. All right, to lighten the mood a little, this poem is called Trash Day. After you retire, you can always recognize Saturday and Sunday, but you lose track of the weekdays. When you have nothing you have to do, the days can run together. Every morning at breakfast, one of us will ask, "What day is it?" None of us is really sure. We could, of course, pick up the newspaper, but that would be cheating. We'd rather use our own system. Our trash pickup day is Wednesday. That's the one day we have to remember. And we use it as a guide to the rest of the week. Thursday's the easiest. It's the day after trash day. Friday is a little harder as our memories start to get hazy. We always agree, sooner or later, that we must have put out the trash 2 days ago. 2 days after trash day is Friday. On Mondays, we use a different strategy. The day before trash day is not going to work. We still remember, though, that yesterday was Sunday, and the day after Sunday is Monday. Tuesday is probably the hardest. Sunday has gotten hazy in our minds, but just in time, trash day has popped back in. We know it's the day before trash day, and that makes it Tuesday. Our system was working well until a new guy joined us. He kept getting us confused. And we finally figured out the problem. His trash day is Thursday. Oh, God. Okay, one of the things that happens as you really get older and you just are overwhelmed by the clutter of things you've collected. So you start trying to get rid of it, to pare it down, but also some of the things you love and want to keep. So it's a bit of a struggle. This section of poems is called Things. It's related to retirement, but it's a little different. It's called Right Down the Aisle. I'm not one of those old guys who totters around pushing the shopping cart behind his wife. No. But on this day, I'd offered to help. I was hunting for Ritz crackers and came upon a row of little red boxes with pictures of wild animals on them. Animal crackers. I used to love it. What? I used to love animal crackers, though I still believe they're cookies, not crackers. I'm not going to change that. And I was pleased to find they're still around. They got me thinking about some of my other old favorites. Does Hood still make Hoodsies? I'm pretty sure they do. I used to love Hoodsies. For the ice cream and the pictures on the back of the lid, I still buy Hood milk today out of loyalty. And what about Cracker Jacks? That caramel popcorn and those red peanuts. I love to eat them and fish inside the box for the prize. Can you still buy Cracker Jacks? And what about Necco wafers, which I loved, except for the licorice ones, and Sky bars with the 4 great fillings, and what's happened to devil dogs, which I loved before I knew of whoopie pies. Does anybody still make these? I was pondering these questions when my wife appeared with a very full cart. She'd been looking for me. I'm getting Ritz crackers. They're right down this aisle. Okay. I don't know how many of you will get those references or not, but.
About half of them.
All of them.
You're right. They're cookies. They're not crackers, Tom.
That's right. Thank you. I appreciate that.
This is Tyler, by the way.
Thank you.
Sophie, thank you for telling us we can unmute for feedback.
Yeah, why don't we just do that? But
If you want, I feel like, Tom, I feel like you deserved it. I was laughing a lot here and I wanted everyone to be able to share it.
I'm going crazy with the silence. It's killing me.
Yeah.
We've been cracking up here, so.
Along with you, Tom.
Brian, thank heavens.
Yeah, my kids are enjoying them too.
I mean,
And Tom, what about Mars bars? Remember them?
they're still around. I like those.
They're still around. Good.
Every Halloween.
All right, I'm going to go into clothes now.
About time.
Because we're zooming, it doesn't mean you shouldn't wear pants.
I've got the first line for a new poem, which is, I feel sorry for my clothes. That's the start of a new poem. And I do, I really do. I mean, they just hang there and they never get touched. I mean,
Yeah.
awful. But this is called Dressing for Work. And it's interesting. Everybody in my generation has a story about their old Italian gardener, a man who wore formal clothes while working in the family garden. Ours was named Patsy. He showed up every spring and spent a full week getting our garden plot ready, using only an old-fashioned shovel.
What happened to that now?
As a boy, I used to watch him work. He dug steadily all day long. But what I remember best is what he wore: a suit jacket, a white shirt, and a tie. After he'd spent the day digging in the hot sun, that white shirt of his would look pretty bad. He'd show up the next morning in a fresh one. As a boy, I thought dressing up to go dig dirt was foolish. My father said all the old Italian men dressed up for work, even the garbage collectors. I understood them better when I went to work myself. I wore a coat and tie at work almost every day of my life. I chose to do it. Most of my colleagues chose not to. I worked at a desk for over 50 years. I didn't sweat or dig dirt, but I still worked pretty damn hard. I was a lot like old Patsy, but a whole lot easier on white shirts. All right, here's another one.
I know, the gentleman fisherman. Yep.
Clothes and the Man, it's called. My plan for retirement was to live a life of casual elegance, to dress in that slightly tattered way that well-to-do old preppies have. With a 30-year-old tweed jacket, a blue-striped button-down shirt, chino pants, cordovan loafers, and a navy blue cashmere sweater with a hole in one elbow. I wear all these things, and I bought them at Brooks Brothers, where all the old preppies shop. Hell, I'm an old preppy myself, PA 54. Why then don't I look more like George Bush Sr. and less like an old Italian gardener in dress-up clothes?
Very good.
Let me see. Okay, here's one. Wait. Yeah, okay. Well, what have I done here? Just a minute. I'm sorry. I missed one. I'm going to go back and read it. It's on the topic of things. These are really wonderful things that I forgot to mention. And you know, you throw out a lot of stuff, but there's certain things that you never throw out that you want to keep. And these are they. Oh, I see what I've done. I've screwed up even worse. So it's not a serious problem. We'll probably survive it. Let me go back to things, and this is called Names We Call Things. This is one of my favorites. God. Names we call things. They start off as specific things. A vase with a floral pattern, an end table with a leather top, a painting of a gray cat. When we stop finding them interesting, we think of them as stuff, which we tuck away in the attic and forget about. Stuff accumulates. The attic and then the spare rooms become cluttered with it. When we can no longer avoid noticing it, we make judgments. Some of it might have value someday. The rest of it we call junk. The clutter gets worse. And we try to get rid of the junk. We hold a yard sale on the front lawn and drag ugly, bulky furniture down to the attic. At the end of the day, the furniture is still sitting there. We drag it to the curb with a free sign on it. And when it's still there the next morning, we run out of all patience. Let's get rid of this shit, we cry as we haul it off to the dump. Some things will never become stuff. Others will go from stuff to junk and then to shit. Acquire with care. That cute little tchotchke you're fondling will not hold your interest for long. You'll be calling it a piece of shit within a week.
Especially when you step on it.
Okay, now I want to write about a wonderful and good thing that certain things you never tire of, you only appreciate them more. And this will be for my Canadian friends too. It's called TACS, T-A-C-K-S. It's the name of a ice skate, the best hockey skate that's ever been made by man or woman, as it were. If you grew up in New England when I did, and if you loved skating and hockey as I did, then Canada was a magical place. It was where les Canadiens came from, intense, dark-browed, lightning-fast hockey players like Maurice Richard. And it was where Tax came from. Tackleberry skates, the finest hockey skates the world has ever seen. They were made by CCM, Canadian Cycle and Motor Company. And they were made of leather, not plastic, and steel. Tacks were beyond me, I thought. But when I finally wore out my old skates, I found a pair of tacks online, used but just my size. They're beautiful to look at, with boots made of soft, firm leather, and effortless to skate in. I've never skated so well. Still, I'll never feel these wonderful skates belong to me. I'm no Maurice Richard. I'm not even Canadian. All right, I did 2 on clothes. I've got 1 more on clothes, which will mean more to York people than to others, but maybe not. There is this wonderful, attractive, stylish woman who walks around York in the summertime all dressed up. She's got big hats on and she carries a bag. She's got leather shoes. She looks like $1 million. And you know, in comparison to the way the rest of us schlep about, it's pretty remarkable. So I've kind of made her into a semi-mythic figure whom I call Walking Lady. I call her Walking Lady because she just walks everywhere. She walks miles and miles, all dressed up. I call her Walking Lady. All summer long, I see her walking around town. Among the tourists in their t-shirts and flip-flops, she's not hard to find. She's always all dressed up in tailored suits or dresses and stylish leather shoes. She carries a leather bag. She always wears a hat, a firm, wide-brimmed hat. This lady belongs on 5th Avenue, not in this little seaside town. But she's here every day, walking. On the sidewalk by the beach, on the path along the harbor, or right in the village square. I can't help wondering who she is. Mrs. Walker, maybe? Probably not. And I wonder where she goes when the weather turns cold. Perhaps she walks south for the winter. Oh dear, it's much better with you guys laughing. It makes it so much better. Okay. Oh, I don't know what that says, but I don't care. All right, good. You hanging in for a few more?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Good. Keep going, Tom. Keep going.
I'm just warming up. This is a section called Unsung Heroes, or Unnamed Heroes. I like to just look at people doing their work, often older people, and and give my impressions of them. I'm particularly fond of waitresses. I admire waitresses as a group. And this lady in particular, who is a somewhat older woman, is a waitress I greatly admire. The poem is called Old Pro. She must be in her 60s now. She's been waiting in this restaurant for as long as we've been coming here, 25 years at least. She's a real pro. She never needs to write our orders down. Just when we realize we want more coffee, she brings it over. She's pleasant, but never chatty. We know her name only because it's printed on the bill. We never call her by it. She's a short, thin woman, stronger than she looks. She handles the heavy trays by tilting her torso back a little. And when her hand begins to shake while she's pouring our coffee, she uses her other hand to steady it.
Mm.
This one is kind of bizarre. It's called Old Bagger. Now, you probably use the word bagger in various ways, but this guy is a bagger, a guy who does bags in the supermarket. When you're paying at the register, you expect to see a kid bagging your groceries, not an old guy with a beard. But there he was, a real old Mainer, with a long white beard, a cap with a visor, and a plaid flannel shirt beneath his red company apron. The deep wrinkles in his face made him look at least 75. He looked fit enough, though. He was thin, stood up straight, and bagged my groceries quickly. He was cheerful when I thanked him. Why was he there? Was he so poor that he had to take any job to get by? Was there some terrible health crisis in his family? Was he just tired of sitting in the house all winter? I'll never know, and it's none of my damn business anyway. That, folks, is a Maine poem.
Right.
These last two are very interesting, a little different. I think I'll do this one first. In the middle of the garment district in New York City, there is a statue called the Garment Worker. You can look it up on the internet and look at it. It's a magnificent statue, magnificent statue. And we ran across it last fall when we were walking around town. And it meant a lot to me because my grandfather came to Italy, from Italy in 1900 and got his first job in the garment district from the Jewish guys there who kind of told him about the clothing business, taught him English. And so this was very, very impressive. It was done by a Judith Weller, who is an Israeli-American sculptor named Judith Weller. So it's really something. The Garment Worker. A middle-aged man seated at a workbench, his fingers guiding cloth through a sewing machine, all his attention focused on the task at hand. He's Jewish, of course, we know from his yarmulke, and from this place where Jews were in charge and where many an immigrant got a start, including my grandfather, who came over from Italy at age 15. The Jews taught him the garment trade. They also taught him English. Such an accent. This bronze figure is a tribute to all those immigrants who helped to build this country. It's also a message for the future. This, my friends, is how serious work is done.
Your hair.
Yeah. I'm not going to give you the title of this one. See if you could guess. Oh, we're live, so we could have an actual guess. See if you could guess. This is a famous figure whose name is not recorded, but whose deeds are recorded.
Alan, did you want to guess this?
Don't guess until I read it. You still won't know. Oh, you will know. We still know their names, the old gods and heroes, Atlas, Achilles, King Arthur, Paul Bunyan, Hercules. Maybe their deeds have been forgotten. Maybe their names are all we know, but their fame survives. Oh, it's in here, I'm sorry. But what of the Good Samaritan? We all remember what he did, but his name is not recorded. Would the memory of his deeds satisfy him? Or is he up there somewhere feeling somewhat miffed?
Got no credit.
I'm almost done. I've got two more, and I want them to be hopeful because, you know, it's kind of a dreary time, but these poems offer some hope to old guys and not so old guys. This one is called Old Guy at the Gym. It's all right, isn't it? Yeah, all right.
G-rated.
I'm only 81. That's in quotes. I wondered if I'd ever say that, even think it. 81 seems so damned old. But Sam, an old guy at our gym, changed my mind. He starts off on the treadmill, pounding it, running so hard you can't help hearing him. Then he tours the weight machines, pulling or lifting at each one. He ends each session with his leg lifts, which I always try to watch. Before he starts, he fastens a 5-pound weight around each ankle. Then he lies on the bench and lifts both legs upward until his feet are directly above his head. He holds his legs straight up for a while, then brings them slowly down. He does 10 lifts a day, way more than I could do even without the weights. Our gym is funny. We're all friends, but we don't know each other's last names. Further information seeps out slowly. I still don't know Sam's last name, but last week I found out how old he is. Sam is 89, going on 90. He's probably 90 by now. That was last spring. All right, this is my last one. We go on these bike tours with other retired people and all over Europe and so forth, and have a great time. But we try to pick places that don't have a lot of hills, but that are marked easy. But this time we went on a trip that was marked moderate, which was an understatement to say the least. It was what was it, Portugal, wasn't it? And it was, there were a lot of big hills there. All right, this is called New Chapter. I'm the oldest one on this bike tour. That's nothing new, but this time things are different. The trails are harder, hillier, and sometimes I'm struggling to keep up. I'm not always in the middle of the pack. Today I rode with the sweeper. My wife has left me. Not for another guy, but for another bike. One with electric assist. When we come to the many steep hills, she pushes a button and zips right up. While I'm down in the granny gears, laboring upward, breathing so hard that the cows look up from grazing and stare.
Smart lady.
You're only as old as you feel, the saying goes. And I must admit, I haven't been feeling too spry on this trip. Sure, it's the hardest tour we've taken. It's labeled moderate, but there's nothing moderate about these monstrous hills. Yet the other bikers, women and men, seem to be coping well enough. I'm not exactly decrepit. I did bike 30 miles yesterday. I'm starting to wonder whether my age is finally catching up with me. A sad thought. But wait, there's another chapter to this story. I borrowed my wife's bike today and I too zipped up. Best of all, I felt 20 years younger. Maybe it's time to revise the old saying. You're only as old as technology lets you feel.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm through with the readings, but I'd love to chat with you.
Great job, Tom.
Yay.
Yay.
Thank you. Oh, your flower.
Thoroughly
Wonderful.
good.
Wonderful.
Great
What?
job, Tom.
Thank you. Thank you.
It's wonderful.
Such a delight. And if people would like to have questions or comments for Tom, he's very happy to take them. And sorry I muted you all at the beginning. I apologize for that in retrospect.
Well, that was a good idea. We didn't know whether they'd be well behaved. I know for the fact that many of them can be ill behaved.
That's our preference.
Do we get to critique the poems?
Can if you want to.
But you better not.
If you say something bad, Sophie will mute you.
Tom, I have a question. When do you feel that you started to actually observe aging from the outside? Was it when you started writing these books, or is this something I don't know, when did it start?
You started it.
I had a long period when I didn't really think there was much different. I thought I could do much of everything that I did before. I think retirement is what produced, thinking about it. I mean, your job means so much to you. It's so much your identity. When you quit it, then all of a sudden you feel like you jumped off a cliff. Adjusting to retirement really does take some time. But
only because you were so wonderful, Tom. Only because you were so wonderful.
I second that one.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
But Tom, how old were you when you retired?
Oh, I was
6.
Who's counting?
Wait a minute. Did I make 70? I was kind of like, I guess it was more like 70 when I 78. That's it. 78. I was going to go to 80, but then they made me an offer I couldn't refuse. And I loved my work, and I was very happy, but now I'm very happy to be retired. But there was a couple of years there where I wasn't so happy.
Sorry, Pam.
No, she buzzed into retirement and has never stopped. I mean, she's just amazing.
You gotta horn yourself in.
She is retired.
He's not gonna call me.
Tom, you know the poem you wrote about your mother's twin bed? Did you include that in this book?
Yeah.
Okay, you just didn't read it tonight?
Yeah. You want me to read it? I'll read it.
No.
Well, that's up to everyone else.
I'm kind of leaving a few so you guys would buy the book.
The book. Okay, leave it so we'll buy
How do you do
it.
that?
Oh, here.
So Tom, maybe this is a good opportunity to recruit somebody for our next bike trip, because we're always looking for new recruits.
Sounds like David.
Where are we going to go? Who knows? The world that won't accept us.
Waterful Eat.
I'll go anywhere.
Wonderful.
Where do you want to go, Tom?
I'm going to say goodnight to you, but Ellie wanted to say hello. She's never met you, and she really wants to meet you. So you better hang on after COVID, because she is a crazy girl. Don't put her to bed. I love your poetry. Thank you so much.
All right. My pleasure.
Miss you, Tom.
Just on the topic of buying the book, you can buy it in Portsmouth at the River Run bookstore. There's a link that Sophie has put there that you can use. You can go there yourself. I mean, it only costs $10. I mean, if you get the postage, it's 3 more, and then you get it by June, because I've sent out a half dozen. And then I sent one to Tyler here in York, and he still hasn't gotten it. I mean, deeply depressing. But nevertheless, I mean, River Run Bookstore is the incredible shrinking bookstore. Each time it changes, it gets in a smaller place. But it's still going strong, and it's a good place. And I give them all the money. I don't take any money, which is. That's why I'm waiting for the next release bill so that we can start eating again. Yeah.
I hope you're not hungry. It may be a long wait.
I'm afraid so.
Breakfast at Rick's tomorrow, Tom.
Oh, I'd love to. We've been going to Rick's outdoors. Oh, it's been, when you eat outdoors and it's about 30 degrees. I bring my scraper and scrape the table off.
Only maniacs would do that.
Tom, it's Craig.
Hi, Craig.
You talked a lot about clothes tonight, and I was just noticing how nice you look. Did Pam pick out your outfit tonight?
Yes.
Be honest.
Yes, she did.
Unmuted.
I was going to wear a grungy old T-shirt with New England Patriots on it.
Never.
No, I had great plans about how I was going to dress in retirement. I really wanted to have this nice, elegant retirement. I thought maybe I'd wear a jacket, tweed jacket 3 or 4 days a week. I haven't worn a jacket for maybe 5 years or something. I mean, it's tough. I mean, I really do feel sorry for my clothes.
Daddy, why don't you follow the example of Walking Lady? Obviously admire her so much.
Well,
He looked funny with a big hat on his head. Walking down the street.
You be the talk of the town, Tom. No, you'll be one of those.
I hope if people know her, she's a wonderful lady and she's very stylish.
I know who you're talking about.
I think she has gone south though, because I haven't seen her for quite a while. Well, I guess that's it. Thank you.
Well, thank you.
Thank you. Very enjoyable. Thank you, Tom. Very nice.
I just would like to say Thomas Ryan.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you, Grandpa.
Very much.
When's the next one?
When's the next one?
Hey, Tom, it's gin and tonic time. It's gin and tonic time in Seattle.
Well, goodbye.
It was been really.
Thank you.
Good Matthew, Brian, good seeing you.
Merry Christmas, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Miss you up here.
I'm right on for this year. Thank you.
Merry Christmas.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Cliff and